Hello everyone, this is Julia. Thank you so much for joining me on my craft room adventures. And this is my second card for the collaboration block hop from Heffy Doodle and Sunny Studio stamps. And I'm using the same stamp sets as I did on my previous card, but this one is quite different and it also has a little trick up its sleeve. So I hope you'll keep watching and find out what it is. I cut down a panel of Bristol smooth cardstock to 4 1/4 by 8 1/2, so it's wider than a regular slimline card, but I really needed the width. So I'm starting by ink blending tumbled glass and a little bit of Mermaid Lagoon, just so that it would show behind the cloud edges. And for the clouds, I used the Slimline nature borders from Sunny Studio stamps, just making sure that the teal is visible behind the clouds. Then I'm going in with shaded lilac and also to intensify the color a little bit of the wilted violet, because I really wanted there to be a teal to purple to pink fade on my background. Then I'm going in with spun sugar and picked raspberry. I'm laying down a base layer of the spun sugar and then going in with picked raspberry just to intensify the pink. Making sure to go over the transitions and then also always going back in with more of the purple because I really wanted that color to stand out more. The background was quite pale for what I wanted to do and I wanted more like candy colors, so just going in with more of the pink, more of the purple. Just adding even more. And the regular distressings, since I use Bristol smooth cardstock from Strathmore, they kind of sit on top of the paper so you can move them around a little bit. So sometimes when you try to get a transition, you actually, instead of blending the colors, you end up moving them around. So it takes me a little while to get the blend right, but it's also really forgiving. So, you know, when you have like a splotch of ink, you can always blend that out. So, you know, pros and cons. I also added a little bit more of the teal, then I added a spray of water just to add some texture. I went over a second time just to add a few larger splatters, and then I'm also bringing in some liquid Stardust, just a few splatters of that to make the background shiny. And then I realized that unfortunately I had a little bit of ink up there, so the splatters were actually purple. So I just put a little bit of fresh liquid Stardust down, added some water to get the clear splatters. And there you can see the pretty sparkle. I stamped all of the images from the Heffy Doodle Fluffy Puffy Unicorn stamp set and the Sunny Studios Garden Fairy stamp set. And I'm using my Copic markers to color them in. For the rainbow, I'm using Y02 as my darkest shade for the yellow. Then going in with Y00. Intensifying the yellow a little bit more and then blending that out with Y00. For the clouds, I just used a little bit of the BG quadruple 0. For my pink, I'm using RV66. And on my previous card, I did a rainbow fade all across the strands of hair, but for this one, I really wanted the individual locks to be different colors, so that there's a little bit of variation, but I did end up using the same color theme. So RV66, then RV63, and then blending that out with V000. Then for my purples, I'm going in with BV08, then BV04, just to blend that out, BV01, and then BV quadruple 0. And then I also wanted to add in some teal, so BG09 as the darkest shade, then BG05 to blend that out, BG01, BG000 to fill in the rest. The rest of the unicorns here are just colored off camera. And then I'm bringing in the BG09, BG05, BG01, and BG000 again for the fairy's dress. But I wanted that to fade out into the yellow so that I could combine all the colors into the two fairies' dresses. So I'm using the Y01 and the Y000 for the teal and yellow fade. And then I wanted the pink and purple fade, so I'm going in with BV08, then BV04, BV quadruple zero to blend that out, and then I'm bringing in RV63 and V triple zero. Going back in with the BV01 just to add a little bit more, then going back in with the RV63 as well, and then using the V triple zero to blend that together. Then I'm also using the same shades for the flower in the right fairy's hair. Then I'm adding the purple to her little flower in the hair because I wanted to use the teal to yellow shade on her headband as well. Then for my unicorn, I'm using N markers. So I'm starting with N3. I wanted them to be mostly white, so I just added a little bit of shading with N3, then blending that out with N1, and finally N0. And then I'm just using the colorless blender to blend everything together. I'm also adding in a little bit of RV21 on the cheeks. And then, like I said, just going over everything with a colorless blender to create a smooth transition. Then I'm going in for a second layer, adding in again a bit more of the N3, a little bit more of the RV21, and then blending that out. Then I'm starting on the skin coloring for my fairies. I'm going in with E13 as my darkest shade. I will bring in one shade darker in a little bit, but at this point this was the darkest shade. Then I'm going in with RV21 to add the cheeks because I always like to add in the cheek color so that first then I can blend that out when I color in the face. Then I'm blending out the E13 with E11, then E00. And then I'm going in with a little bit of E18, just below the hairline, the shadow that the dress will create, and also a little bit above the dress and under the chin. And then I'm blending that out with E11. I didn't want to go in with the E13 again because I didn't want the faces to be too dark. And then I'm blending that out again with E00, and finally E000. Then for the hair, I'm using E30 markers. I'm starting with E31, just so that I can map out the placement a little bit. Then going in with E35, just little flicks of that. Then darkening it up with E37. Then again with E35. And going over the transition area with E31 and E30. Then bringing in a little bit of the E39. And again blending that out with E30. Then for my second fairy, I'm also using the E39, just in the areas behind her head, and also the shadow that the headband would create. Then blending that out with E33, E31, and then finally E30. Didn't quite like the blend on this one, so I'm just going over it again with the E30 and E33. And then I'm bringing in the E30 on the second fairy. Once I was done with the coloring, I created the interactive feature of my card, which is a slider. Once I saw that unicorn, I knew I had to make him galloping across the sky. So I'm using the Wavy water slides die by Heffy Doodle, and I'm just lining them up several times across my panel to create a long slider track. Then I realized that I wanted to have some matting for my card just to frame the ink blended panel a little bit. So I cut down the panel by 1/4 of an inch, and I cut another piece of cardstock that's 8.5 by 4 1/4, and I ink blended that with the Mermaid Lagoon. Then I added a little piece of white cardstock that's just slightly larger than the ink blended panel, and I added the ink blended panel on top. I added 2 layers of foam squares all around my slider track, and I used a piece of acetate, one of the MFT slider beads, and I die cut a piece of white cardstock just as the backing of my slider, and I used 2 of them so that I could attach it to both sides of the unicorn. I removed the backing paper of all the foam tape, then I flipped the panel over and attached it to the card. To my 2 slider panels, I'm just adding a little bit of score tape to attach my unicorn. Just using the second cloud border to make sure that most of the acetate as well as the slider track is hidden. And then I'm just adding my little unicorn, making sure that the slider works, and it's just so cute. Little unicorn galloping across the sky. And then I'm stamping my sentiment. Just using some VersaFine Onyx Black ink, sending smiles across the miles, which is from the Sunny Studios Balloon Ride set. And then I'm just attaching all of my remaining images. I added the little front cloud border with just a little bit of foam tape on either side so that it wouldn't get in the way of my slider track since it was fairly far down. Then I'm just attaching all the clouds to the background with just some liquid glue. I'm adding my fairy as well. Just move the cloud over a little bit, and I added some foam squares to the back of the fairy, the part that's hanging off of the cloud so that the image has some support there. The like sleepy looking unicorn is sitting up on the rainbow. And then my second fairy will go on the right. I just added some foam squares, removing the backing paper, and just placing her down as well. I'm moving the unicorn out of the way so that I know the placement works wherever the unicorn is located. And I'm adding a little butterfly at the top. To embellish my card, I'm using the Nuvo Aqua Shimmer Pen in glitter gloss, and I'm just adding that, well, basically everywhere. Like the hair of the unicorn, the fairies, dresses and wings, the butterfly, the clouds, the rainbow. And then because that just wasn't sparkly enough, I'm also adding some Stardust Stickles. And then I also wanted to add a little bit more sparkle to the clouds in the background, so I'm adding some silver iridescent stars. And I'm just placing them sprinkled all over my background and also the clouds. And that finishes off my second card for the Heffy Doodle and Sunny Studios Dams collaboration block hop. I really hope you like it there. You can see the pretty sparkle of the liquid Stardust, the Stickles, and the Shimmer Pen, and also the beautiful iridescent stars. And there goes a little unicorn that's galloping across the clouds, which just cracks me up. I could play with that all day, really. I just think it's so cute. I had so much fun creating cards for this block hop, and I just love how well Sunny Studios and Heffy Doodle pair together. Thank you so very much for watching today. Give the video a big thumbs up if you're a fan of galloping unicorns, and if you enjoyed the video. I would really appreciate it. And I would love it if you would consider subscribing to my channel for more crafty videos. I hope to see you next time. Until then, have a wonderful day. Bye!